Hello and welcome to this Instagram Live. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm talking about the truth behind your teen's lack of motivation. No matter what you seem to try, you've tried soft love, tough love, you're trying to explain to them the impact of what not being motivated is. You've tried yelling, you've tried disciplining, consequencing, and nothing is working. And it's so frustrating, and you're at your wit's end. You don't know what else to do. You're monitoring, and it just comes across as lazy. How can they be so lazy? Do they not get this? Like, what happened? Okay, this is what we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for all of you that are joining me. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, I'm going to provide some tools for you today. So just keep listening. Hang in there. My name is Allie Payne. I'm a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, and I work with parents every day to help them end the painful disconnection and painful communications, lack of communications, stressful silence with their teenagers. And today we're going to talk about the truth behind your teen's lack of motivation. I'm going to start by telling you also some of my story as a teenager to illustrate the point that I want to most get across, okay? Here's the situation. Now, whether your teenager is showing up as unmotivated right now because of perhaps this pandemic situation, it might be virtual schooling. It could be a change in something shifted for them. Maybe they were motivated before, but they don't seem to be now. This could be an overall kind of malaise that's going on. Either way, I know today is going to provide the tools and insight that you're looking for. So stick with me on this. Here's some of my own situation that I want to share. Now, no, I did not grow up in a pandemic and I didn't go to school in a pandemic. But the situation is very similar. I was a straight A student. I was an award-winning academic athletic student on the outside. On the inside, I was a giant, hot, anxious mess. When I hit grade 9, so straight A's, no problem, sailing through school, loved school. When I hit grade 9, things started to go a little bit awry. You see, as a straight A student, I didn't ever learn study techniques. I didn't ever learn how to manage like a workload because I never had a workload. School came easy to me, and I thought it was fun, and I enjoyed it. So I was always getting my work done in class, and I was helping other students all the time. And then grade 9 came along, and all of a sudden things started to feel a little harder. And there was a couple things that happened, okay? And this, if you're a parent, I need you to understand this. Put in the comment here if this is, say that's me. Put in the comments, that's me. If you're dealing with a teenager that you're really concerned about their motivation, their lack of motivation. Put that's me in the comments if that sounds like you, just to let me know. What happened for me in grade 9 was because things started getting hard. First thing it did, yeah, right? Okay. The first thing it did was it shook my self-esteem. Okay? Self-esteem shook first because I only knew my identity. I only knew who I was as a student who knew how to get their work done. Now, whether your teenager, it was sailing through school and straight A's, or maybe they worked hard and got B's or C's, I don't know. It's the same situation. The first thing that went for me was my self-esteem because things got hard. And I remember sitting in my grade 9 classes and going, like kind of doing that, like looking around going, oh crap, this feels hard. I don't know what to do when things feel hard. I had no coping skills for when things felt hard. I only knew, so I was 14 years old. For 9 years of my academic career at that point, I only knew how to be the young girl, the adolescent who understood everything quickly. It felt easy and did it. The minute that I didn't understand it right away was the first moment that my foundation of my own identity, who I thought I was and what I liked about me, what I valued about me, started to shake. Because I was also raised in an environment with a lot of perfectionism and a lot of very negative messaging. So asking for help, because I know as a parent, right? This is the first thing you do. You go to your teenager, well, so it feels hard. Ask for help. Your teacher's right there, whether it's on Zoom or perhaps you're in an area where your teenager goes to school in person and you think like, dude, ask your teacher. They're standing right there. Please hear me for a moment. Even though you may not be raising your children or your teenagers in an environment where where asking for help was truly and talked about. I mean, it was for the weak. If you had to ask for help, you were weak. If you had to ask for help, you were one of them. Okay? That was how I was raised. And so not knowing was terrifying for me, because not only was I in that situation where I couldn't instantly get it, so I went straight into fight or flight. I think that asking for help, which seems a normal response, was weak. And I never had to ask for help. Remember all I said to you before, all of my peers came to me for help. I helped all the other kids in the class. And now all of a sudden I needed help and I didn't know how to be that person. Tell me below if you have told your teenager, just ask the teacher for help or I'll get you extra tutoring, right? Because you love your teenagers. So you're trying to give them everything that they can, every resource they can. And they don't seem to be reaching out and using them. Okay. Then I hit grade 10 and I was put in I was put in the International Baccalaureate program, which is an advanced academic program. I was a gifted student. I was supposed to skip a few grades in elementary and I did not. And so I was put into the International Baccalaureate program. Now, if you've been listening, I was already just having that inkling of fear and my own identity of myself as the smart girl who could easily pick up on and get things done. And now I'm put in an advanced program. Okay. Now you're saying to me, Allie, this has nothing to do with my teenager. No, listen, this is the same as if your teenager right now, this is exactly the same as if they had to go into online learning or virtual schooling. It is the same. There was a change in educational environment or situation. For me, it was being put in advanced classes. Okay? For your teenager, it probably has a lot to do with this pandemic. Or even prior to that, something shifted and changed. Okay? So stay with me. I was put in advanced academic programming, right? Why aren't they asking for help? This is exactly it. Yes. Why? Because they don't know how to ask for help. Asking for help, they probably have their own story that asking for help is weak. There's something about asking for help that challenges who they believe they are. I was the help. And now all of a sudden I'm supposed to ask for help? Like I couldn't compute that in my brain because it was so flew in the face of who I thought I was that I almost couldn't be with it, let alone the judgment of what asking for help meant in my home, which meant you were weak, you were dumb, you were one of those kids who needs help. Like that's how I was raised. So I had all of that programming going on in my head, which you may not be doing with your teen, but they may have their own story about that, okay? Then I'm put in this advanced programming, and I had the intellectual knowledge to participate in that programming. But what I did not have, I had no study skills. And when I say no, I mean literally none. I had zero study skills. I had zero coping skills to know that I was safe, I was okay, who I was did not decrease in value just because I needed to ask for help, collaborate with other kids, and ask them, hey, did you get question number 7? What did you do with that? Because I was always that kid who got asked. So this challenged every single thing I knew about myself. And it challenged my self-esteem. Self-esteem is what I value about and believe about myself. Okay? And that is the first thing that starts to go. Long before you're seeing a lack of motivation, okay? But I'm taking you back to the very beginning so that you can understand where your teenager is coming from. It's subtle. It's very, very subtle. They probably don't even notice it's happening. My self-esteem and because what I valued about myself and who I thought I was started to tank. Okay? That was first. Then my self-confidence, which is my belief in my ability to do something outside of myself, my belief in my ability to accomplish, to complete, to do a task outside of me. Then my self-confidence started to tank. Okay, now remember, I was an award-winning athletic academic student. First, my self-esteem goes, because that's inside, that's internal, that's always number one. Then my self-confidence starts to go down. And this is where you are starting to see your teenager show up with a lack of motivation. And here's why. Yeah, the growth mindset is everything. For sure it is. And you're still going to deal with moments with your teenager where they're challenged with their self-esteem and self-confidence. So yes, it is. Absolutely. And this is an emotional thing that goes on. Okay. So now I make it through grade 10, but I'm not super on my game, and things are going downhill, and they're going downhill so fast that I can't stop them. Like an avalanche, like a snowflake in an avalanche. I can't stop the runaway train. Okay. Now let me be very clear with you about something. I was highly motivated. I am a wildly ambitious, competitive person. I was highly motivated. I cared a lot. By the end of grade 10, and now going into grade 11, I'm still in this international baccalaureate program. I have no coping skills emotionally. I have no coping or strategies for study, schoolwork, academic learning. And now in grade 11, I realize I'm over my head. I could forget about it over the summer, like in grade 10 and 11, I could kind of forget about it, pretend it wasn't there, go back to being myself. Grade 11 hits, and you may as well have plugged a fire hose in my mouth and that was it. I was done. But here's the thing. See, when I used to try, remember now I have 15 years. I'm in grade 11. That's 15 years old. I have 10 years of you doing something a certain way and getting great results with that. Have you ever done something well? You've succeeded at it. Or, I mean, even if you weren't a rock star, you've done something really well, and your methodology, your strategy for doing that thing, your process, it works. It works every time, like making perfect pastry. Whatever it is for you, it works. And then one day, you show up and everything that you've tried and done for the last 10 years, it's not working. It doesn't work anymore. Please, for a moment, just be with how unsettling that is as a teenager who does not have the intellectual executive function to process what is going on for them, sometimes so fast that it seems so obvious as an adult. Like, just go ask for help. Tell me you need help. I'm good. I'll get you whatever help you want. That's not how the teenage brain works. The teenage brain, because it is highly activated in the amygdala, the emotional brain, is far more likely to internalize the message of what is going on externally. So what was going on for me externally was I cared. I wildly cared. But I didn't know how to keep up. Number one, the image that I knew myself of and who I loved because I was kind of happy with her. I didn't know how to get that back. There was no amount of frantic energy and trying to get that back. She was gone. I didn't know how to be anyone but her. And I still cared. But in the I couldn't do anything about it because it was happening so fast. And being a failure was something that I was already being programmed with. But it is something that your teenager's brain is far more likely to make up about themselves. That it will impact their self-esteem first, then, which is internal, then their self-confidence, which is external. And then you see, my teenager has no motivation. They're lazy. They're just lazy. What is the problem? They're obviously choosing not to care. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. Like, I'm providing all the help I can get until I'm punishing and consequencing. They just don't care. Your teenager never stopped caring. Your teenager cares a lot. But by the time they begin to fail, because it's all going downhill so fast, this is what's happening in this pandemic education learning system, the only card that they have left, the only coping strategy that they have left is apathy. Apathy is a lack of engagement, which shows up as lazy, right? Or not caring. It is a coping strategy. Please hear me. Your teenager is coping if they are showing up as apathetic. Because trying something, like giving something all, your heart, trying something and failing. Have you ever done that? Have you ever tried something with all your heart and you failed? Like, just crush me now. Just take your grandmother's walnut, pick and just stab it in there right now. It hurts trying with all your heart and failing. And your teenager was already trying, but it wasn't working. That was before they showed up as a lack of motivation in front of you. When their self-esteem started to fall and then their self-confidence started to fall, that was trying and it wasn't working. They were trying whatever they knew in their last 10 years of academic career and it wasn't working. So they show up as apathetic because not trying and failing hurts less. Not trying and failing is it's a shield. It's a shield to keep the pain from what I'm making up in my mind, which is not only that I am failing, but that I am a failure. That is so hard to be with. To sit with that for a moment, that this is emotional for me because this was so much of my teenage years. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional, but I need you to understand, parents, please. Your teenager does care. They don't know how to cope. They don't know how to try because the only coping that they knew isn't working. And as much as asking for help seems so obvious, and as much as asking for extra assistance seems so normal, it's not in who they are. And so by the time they're showing up as not motivated for you, your teenager is using apathy as a coping strategy because not caring and failing hurts less than caring a lot and failing. And they can't be with that right now because their self-esteem, that belief that they have about themselves, it's tanked. Their self-confidence, the belief that they have to successfully accomplish tasks, it's tanked. That's why they show up as not motivated. And here's where it gets one step worse, as if it could. It gets worse when, as parents, because you love them, I know that you love your teenager and you want the very best for them. It gets worse when you consequence and punish them for being apathetic. Because not only has your teenager plowed through their own expectations of themselves, which they're wildly failing, they are now painfully aware of how they are not meeting your expectations either. And that is so extremely painful. And so that is why, even though I know you mean well, I'm a parent too, I get it. Punishing and consequencing a teenager who is appearing as apathetic and lazy will absolutely never work, because all it's doing is driving home the message that they are a failure. I know that's not what you mean. That's how they're hearing it. That's how they're perceiving it. Okay? I also need to say this, because as an adult, it seems like, yeah, so you went from schooling to in-person schooling. You didn't really love that either, but you did it. And now you're doing this online virtual schooling and suck it up. What's the big deal? Sit down, look at your Zoom and get the work done. Duh. Right? I know. I understand. There are 4 to 7 scientifically documented, if you research it, I've done this research, different learning styles, okay? Of those, only 2, maybe 3 are suited for online learning. If you overlay that with personality styles, I'm an extroverted extrovert. Being on Zoom, I'm done with being on Zoom. I am an extroverted extrovert, and so as such, I am a visual spatial learner, not visual looking at a screen, visual spatial. I learn by being in an environment. I need to see around me. I need all those external cues. That's how I connect and learn. I do not learn on virtual or things like this. I don't. In fact, as a business person, I was paying thousands of dollars for courses that ran this way in the last even 4 years, let alone during a pandemic. And I finally decided I won't pay for that anymore because I get nothing out of them, because I find no connection. I don't enjoy participating in that way, and so I don't learn. So there is such a thing as scientifically proven different learning styles. When you overlay that with personality styles, you are going to get out of a possible combination of, even if we said there was 4 core learning styles and 4 core personality styles, that makes 16. If you're a mathematician, I'm going to tell you about a quarter of those, maybe a third, are suited for online learning. So as much as an adult, you and I would be like, okay, well, we've adjusted our work, right? We work from home on Zoom and do all the things. What's the big deal? Just do your work online. Your assignment's right there. Your teacher's right there. You can see other people's faces. Get over it. It doesn't work that way for teenagers. It doesn't work that way. At least not for all. There are some teenagers where this is the greatest gift come as heaven, I tell you, in itself, because they are very introverted and they no longer are forced to interact with a classroom of children. That didn't work for them either. So you might have both. I don't know. Here's the other thing that I want to say, that I posted a TikTok about this, I don't know, a month ago. And the response from teenagers literally broke my heart, because this is also how I was raised and how I grew up. I posted a TikTok that said, teenagers, please understand that your value, your worth is not tied up in a letter, grade, or a percentage. It never has been. Your worth is so much more than you know. It has nothing to do. Yes, education is required depending on what you choose to pursue in your life. Is education in school, which is quite antiquated, I'm sorry, is education in school the only way to educate? No. You and I can both go on YouTube right now if we're willing to spend enough hours doing it and become an expert at something, and we never got a grade or percentage. The number of responses, I mean, it's public, you can go look at the responses, thousands and thousands of responses from teenagers that say literally one thing in response to that video. Tell my parents that. Tell my parents that. I think we as Gen X, we as Gen X, sometimes Gen Z, because we were raised in this older system of antiquated schooling. We were raised, you have to get good grades. I mean, you got to get good grades because you got to go to a university and you got to get a degree and you got to get a good job and you got to, to be successful. And teenagers also tell me that this is the only thing they see as a success path in their life. And if they don't get good grades, and if they don't get into all the best schools, and if they don't get the best job, mostly because they so desperately want to please you, they so desperately want to avoid disappointing you, that is the only version of success. And if they do not do that, if they don't get good grades in school, and they don't get into the best universities, and they don't get the best job that makes the most amount of money to be successful because they desperately want to please you, they will be kicked out of the house, homeless, and living under a bridge. I am not joking. I get these messages by the thousands from TikToks from teenagers. They either have that or they have this, and there's nothing in between. So can we please stop perpetuating the message that our teenagers are a grade or they are a percentage? Can we stop asking them, how did you do on that test? Can we start rewarding our teenagers for working hard for that test? Maybe a C average is their very best. Fantastic. I tell teenagers every day, do your best to be your best. That's all you can do. Do your best to be your best. But when they are being told at home, or even if you don't mean it, I mean, look, I know you're an amazing parent. You're an amazing, loving parent because you're here right now. That's how I know that. You're not trying to install any of this. Half of this stuff was installed in our brains when we were young and we don't even realize the story. What is your story about your teenager dropping grades? What's your story about your teenager failing a year of school in this pandemic? I went from straight A's to F's and failing out and an attempted suicide in grade 11. That's how far down the avalanche I went to I am a failure. I had zero support at home. Those were the days where no one asked a student who had been the rock star student in the student council, straight A person who went from F's and skipping out. Nobody said, hey, is anything wrong? Crazy, I know. I want you to help you change the conversation with your teenager. Okay? Can we please agree right here, right now? Put I agree if you're in the comments. That we agree to stop consequencing and punishing our children when they show up as unmotivated, lazy, or apathetic, and start seeing that as a coping strategy to cover having blown through their own expectations, now knowing wildly they're failing yours, and that their self-esteem is tanked and their self-confidence, which are two different things, has also tanked. What your teenager needs most is this. They need love. Because nothing changes until you think of a time in your life. Is there a time in your life where you went through a significant change? I don't know what the change was. Where you went through a significant change, our brains are wired that we only change when our stress response is diminished dramatically. And in order for that to happen, you need to feel fully loved and accepted for who you are and where you're at. So long as I feel punished, made wrong, like a failure, attacked, judged, I'm not going to change because I'm in survival. I'm literally in survival. But when expectations, which by the way are an external projection, and it's okay, we all have expectations. I'll out myself for sure. My husband and I were both very intelligent people. Our parents, very intelligent. We had an expectation that our kids were intelligent and wouldn't struggle with school. Did they? Yes. And did I have to check my expectations? Darn rights I did. And was it hard? Like eating an old leather shoe. It was very hard for me to remember that my child's mental health had to come before anything else, and that me defining my child by a percentage or a grade was going to do nothing but diminish their value and what they thought of themselves. So what they need is love. They need encouragement. They need you to ask them, what is it like to be you right now? And then they need you to listen without judgment. Listen. I've been posting this on the internet for the last year, and I feel like I'm posting into a vacuum. The number of parents that are saying, I just wrote an article on this. If you go to my website and my blog, the number of parents that say, I've done everything I can. They're just lazy. They're going to have to go through summer school. And if they fail, that's their own problem. I know the teachers are doing the best they can. What if your teen's doing the best they can too? And I'm constantly telling parents, you don't have a motivation issue. You have a self-esteem and self-confidence issue. Please stop punishing. Please stop consequencing them. It's not helping. I was that teenager. I'm speaking from my own experience. And I finally had one person in the last year I just saw. It was not in response to a comment, but they said, listen, parents, I just had this huge insight. I actually sat and talked to my son, but I didn't talk to or at him. I sat and spoke with him and asked him how things were going and listened. And she said, the conversation went on for 2 hours and I just listened. And he completely opened up about his level of anxiety, situational depression, about his struggle with his self-esteem and self-confidence because of the way the world has changed and he doesn't know how to be in that world. And she said to parents, there's a lot more going on than what we think. Maybe we should just sit and listen. And so I'm here to just tell you that, to please don't be thrown off by what you see on the surface. Because what you see on the surface is coping. And that's not the truth of what is going on for your teenager. So what does this look like? Okay, so love and encourage them. Sit and listen. Ask them, what is it like to be you right now? Ask them, How can I support you? But first, you might need to say, I apologize. Maybe you might need to say, I'm sorry that I've been trying to consequence and punish motivation back into you, because I know now that that doesn't work. Scientifically, it's proven you cannot motivate someone. You cannot motivate anyone. You can consequence, punish, you can do all you want. You can remove their phone, technology, their video games, their door, their clothes, their makeup, their sports. You can remove everything. Motivation is not an external source. Motivation is internal. It is a choice I make internally. Now, there are certain external structures or things that can support that, like you maybe removing your pre-pandemic academic expectations of your teenager. Just removing them, because it is not the same. Did you ever grow up in a pandemic? Were you a teenager in a pandemic? Do you know what it's like to feel like you've been basically grounded for a year? To remove the necessary social connections for a year as a teenager? It'd be in the history books if you and I had grown up that way. Please, if you are willing to visit your own academic expectations of your teenager and drop them. Just drop them. Because what they need right now is for you to love and accept them for who they are and where they're at. That is where change occurs. And then you can go to them and listen. And I'm going to tell you right now, if they fail if they fail a couple courses, they fail the grade, if you just need to pull them out of school because it's not working. It's not working this year. Is it worth continuing to force academic pre-pandemic expectations on them so that they live in survival and coping, continue to reinforce that not only are they failing you, but they're failing themselves and they are a failure, because that's what the teen brain does, and that when this pandemic is over, whatever that looks like, and schooling goes back to what it might be, or maybe they are graduating this year and they're heading off to university. Do you want them heading off to university with self-esteem and self-confidence in their boots? That's expensive. I don't know about you, but paying for any university or any schooling when my teenager or young adult has so little belief in themselves and their abilities to do well is a giant waste of money. Here's a couple resources for you. There's a book called He's Not Lazy. It's written for teen boys. It works great for teen girls too. It's by Adam Price, I believe. He's Not Lazy by Adam Price. Can someone type that in the comments for me? He's Not Lazy by Adam Price. And if you are willing to read that book, it is the explanation and the science in the brain about why apathy, you think that's their choice. Like they're just choosing that to like dig in their heels. They're just choosing that to piss me off. They're just choosing that to be right. No, they don't have the intellectual, thank you so much. They don't have the intellectual prowess to be at that stage. By the time they're in apathy, it's a coping strategy, because I'll say it again, trying and failing is so painful, and they've already done that. Like that's in the rearview mirror, okay? They've already done that. So not trying and failing is the only shield that they have left. And don't ever make up, it doesn't mean they don't care. They've never stopped caring. But the apathy is the one thing that's keeping them afloat as a coping strategy. Talk to their teachers. Let them know maybe they need a week break. Maybe they need to take a couple weeks off. We're approaching spring break in our school system. I'm not sure what that looks like for you. Maybe that's a couple weeks off. Here's some coping strategies that do work if you are willing to do what I've spoken about in previous. Number one, help them set small daily goals. These are not goals that you come up with. Oh, no, because that goes back to expectations, which are a projection of an experience you want. Helping them set small daily goals that they come up with. And it might be getting out of bed on time. Like I hear over and over, I can't even get my kid out of bed for their first class. They don't even show up. Okay, so after you've removed your expectation and had a serious and very real listening with your teenager, don't have a talking to them, have a listening to them, then you can help them set these small daily goals to just get out of bed on time. And I'll tell you what, getting out of bed on time goes back to going to bed on time. So help them look at the issue. The issue is their self-esteem and their self-confidence. The issue is not their academic performance. So what can you do to fulfill that? So you want to help them to feel better about themselves. Ask them what that is, not you. Tell them. Ask them, help them support that goal. From a physiological standpoint, getting enough sleep in the teen brain is critical, even though their circadian rhythm is different and they go to bed later and they get up later, okay? You've got to support their circadian rhythm. Number 2, support their nutrition. Really hard as a teenager, I know. I've got a picky eater too. Do what you can to lower processed sugar, get healthier foods, and eat more frequently if they're just not eating enough food. That's big. Number 3, they need to be outside, half an hour minimum, no screen, riding a bike, doing something in your yard, maybe going for a walk with a friend, depending on what level of quarantine you're at, in what region you're in. So they must be outside. And the last one is help them find joy. Help them find joy again. Maybe it's watching, it usually involves YouTube actually. Like, is it cooking that they love cooking? Try a new recipe. Sewing, creating, crafting, singing, dancing, playing an instrument, learning a skill. All of this stuff is on YouTube. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit of money to go and get some bits and baubles to go and help them do that. But if that is what raises their self-esteem, which is the source of raising their self-confidence, which is the source of having more motivation, then isn't that worth it? I want to thank you for joining me today and for listening. I understand that this is a very, very challenging topic for right now. And that you and I know me, I wasn't raised in a time, I didn't learn any of these relationship skills. I didn't know any of this. I'm sharing it with you today right here because I walked it. I was that teenager. And I don't want that for your teen. Nobody came and helped me. I got myself sorted by about March of grade 11. And I knew at that point there was nothing I could do to pass much of grade 11. I just needed to limp through to get myself to summer where I could breathe, because apathy was just enough to keep my mouth above water from drowning. So I did what I could to get through till the summer of grade 11. And then I thought, okay, I never want to feel this way again. And I did fail. I failed 2 classes. I failed French and I failed something else, which going from a straight A student to having to failing classes, that was a tough pill to swallow, but I came to terms with it myself over the summer. My aunt gave me an agenda for my birthday in May, which I had nothing to do with in May. I was still failing everything. And I pulled that agenda out in grade 12 and I thought, okay, what works for me? I, on my own at 17, decided, okay, what works for me? And I thought, okay, I'm really chaotic. I don't do structure really well. I'm going to use this agenda my aunt gave me and I'm going to start writing down everything so I don't have so much going on in my head because my head is tired. There's so much going on in my head. I need help. And so I wrote everything down, all my schoolwork, all my homework, my assignments, everything, so I didn't have to remember anything. I decided I was going to take notes in every class. I decided I was going to spend a couple hours. I did a lot of sports. But outside of sports, I was going to spend as much time as I could doing homework. If I had a practice at 5 o'clock, I decided I wasn't going home. I was going to bring extra food and I would stay after school and I would get my homework done right then. I put in all of these systems and processes that I already knew about myself to work. And guess what happened in grade 12? I went back to being a straight A student. and I won the top academic and athletic student award. And I did that without the support and the encouragement that I wanted and I needed. I championed myself, and I don't want that for your teenager. Please be their champion. Come alongside them instead of trying to come up against them, because you can't make them do anything. And consequence and punishment is only driving home what they already know, which is that they're failing. Come alongside them. Love them and encourage them for who they are and where they're at. Have a good look at your story about what it would mean to be a parent of a teen who fails. And I know there's a whole ton of shaming stories that go on for parents that if your teenager is failing, obviously you're not a good parent. I mean, obviously you're failing as a parent. I know that exists. I can't change that, but I'm here talking to you. So at least it's a choice you can make to release your pre-pandemic expectations of them and meet them where they're at, to champion, love, and encourage and support them in whatever they need. And that might mean they need to pause school because this isn't working for them. Because at the end of the day, I know you love them. I know you love them more than anything. So if you can think 10 years down the road, not to what they're doing, okay, to who you want them to be. And studies show all parents want for their teenagers or for their children is to be healthy and happy. That's all they want for their children. Like statistically, healthy and happy. Okay, so if you want your teenager to be healthy and happy, which I know that you do, then it has to start with their mental health first. So go there. That's all I've got for you. I didn't expect the emotion, but it showed up. So I want to thank you for staying with me on that today. I have lots more resources available. Here's a couple things. If you go to the link in my bio, I always have more resources. I just am posting articles about this in the last 2-3 weeks with lots more tools. If you go to the link in my bio, you will find Connect for weekly tips. I share a lot more in my newsletters than I do put on my blog. So if you want the inside goods, you're going to have to get on that list. If you would like to be part of, I have an upcoming 5-day challenge, 5 days to a better relationship with your teen. I'm covering the 5 most difficult connection points or common disconnection points that parents have with teens, April 5th to 9th. If you go to the link in my bio, you can get on that wait list because registration opens March 22nd. If you don't want to miss it, you've got to get on the wait list to find out about it, okay? You can also join my free Facebook group. I go live every week and I answer and address all of the conversation and questions that have gone through the week to help support you, to alleviate this painful disconnection with your teenager, whether it's super disrespectful communication or it's that you feel like you've lost connection with the mothership, like, hello, Houston, where are ya? That is my passion and that's what I want to do. So check the link in my bio. There's always more resources. I want to see you in that live 5-day challenge. I want to see you in my free Facebook group because I want to support you. I will never give up on you and I will never give up on your teenager. So I want to thank you again for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for following. Thank you for commenting. I'm so incredibly grateful for you and being in this community. Bye, everybody.